In this video, we're going to continue with our post hoc analysis, and just as a review, we had gathered up all of the data that we need here to examine specifically where those statistically significant differences existed among those five groups. So the first step I'm going to take here is I'm going to move my equation over just to give me a little bit more room here in my Excel sheet, and this is what I want to calculate right now. I want to calculate what's called the Tukey HSD value that I'm going to use to compare against the differences against separate pairs of those five group averages. So I'm just going to type in Tukey HSD, and I'm going to type in the equation here, and I have to start with my equal sign, and so I'm going to start with the critical Q value that we had looked up on the Q table, and I entered that number right here in this cell. So I'm going to click that cell, I'm going to shift 8, and I'm going to multiply that by the SQRT, or the square root of shift 9 open parenthesis of the ratio of the mean square within / divided by the sample size, which I had typed up here in the previous video. I shift 0 to close, and now we have a value of 1.9485 to make our comparison. Now we move over to our group averages, and so here we see the group averages I had copied over from our ANOVA worksheet, but this isn't ordered. This is ordered by group number. I need to change that and reorder these values from low to high. So I'm going to highlight the numbers and the assigned groupings. Then I'm going to go up to the menu item data. I'm going to click sort, and I want to sort by column B. And when I hit OK, you'll see now that these data are ordered from low to high. It's very important that the rest of the cells in columns A and B are empty because we want to make sure we isolate our ordering to these values alone. So I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to copy these, and I'm going to pull these down and paste these data a little bit further down on my worksheet so I have this to work with. And so I'm just going to simply paste. Now I'm going to copy again, and I'm going to move one column over and 2 rows up. Now this time I'm going to paste special, and I want to transpose because I want to make the columns into rows so I can now match up the differences that I'm now going to calculate pair by pair and create a matrix of differences. So I'm going to put the first difference here, and I'm not going to be concerned about the direction, so I want the absolute value. So I'm going to go ahead and type in my equation, which is the equal sign, ABS for the absolute value, and that's going to be returned when I shift 9. And I'm going to take the difference of this cell, and I'm going to subtract it. I'm going to subtract the value contained in this cell. I'm going to shift 0, and I have a value of 0. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking this average and subtracting it from the exact same average of both groups of group 5. But that will allow me to begin the process of building my matrix. Now I'm going to go back up here to where I just calculated this, and I'm going to pull this cell over so I can move the equation and quickly calculate it for the rest of the differences. So what I'm going to calculate now is the difference between group 3 and group 5, group 1, group 5, 4 and group 5, and group 2 and group 5. But I need to lock in the value for B11. I don't want to advance to B12. So I'm going to put the $sign in front of the B and the $sign in front of 11, and I hit enter, and of course nothing changes, but I grab that and I pull it over, and now I have the differences automatically calculated. So I'm going to grab this cell here, I'm going to pull it down one cell, and now I need to make some adjustments to the equation. So I want to start with the average for group 5 and compare it to group 3. But group 5 is in B10, so I need to go up to my formula bar and change the C11 to C10, and I need to change the B11 to B12. So now I have the difference between group 5 and group number 3, and let's confirm. So the average for group 5 is in cell C10. We have that here, and the average for group 3 is in B12. So now I can pull this over and automatically perform these calculations. So I'm going to repeat this 3 more times, and every time I pull it down I do have to make an adjustment to the equation in the cell. So once again I need to change this to C10, and I need to change this to B13. And let's go ahead and pull this to the right. Now the pattern you should be noticing here is that we are now building a diagonal of zeros, and the 0 is the difference between the averages for each group itself. So we have group 3, group 3, group 1, and group 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and complete this. I'll need to make another adjustment to make C11 C10 and B13 B14. I'll pull this over, and we need to do this just one more time to complete our matrix. C10 B15, hit enter. We'll grab and bottom right hand corner, pull it over. So what we see here with our matrix of differences, if you follow the diagonal from the top left hand corner to the bottom right hand corner, the differences we had calculated in the top half of the diagonal is a mirror image of the bottom half. So we'll just focus on the top half, and what we want to look for are values that are greater than our Tukey value that we had calculated from our equation. So when I go to the blue here, I see I have 3.43, and I'm just going to click bold on that just to make it distinctive. I have a 2.85 or 2.86. I'm going to bold that. 2.57. I'm going to bold that. And when I go through the table, I don't see any other values that are at least this as large as this difference or greater. I only have these 3. So our conclusion from this study now states that the differences in the data, in the averages between group 2 and group 5, group 2 and group 3, group 2 and group 1 are statistically different from each other, whereas the differences between the other remaining pairwise comparisons are not statistically different. And then so we would just relate that back to the unique individuals that made up each of the 5 different groups. So this ends our second video on how to perform a Tukey HSD in Microsoft Excel.